Yeah, straight up. Oh, beautiful. It's pretty good, dude. Perfect. Straight back.
Yeah, as far as the B-pillar chop, the main thing was that I had an example, because we did have John's JLU. So I had kind of something to look off of. It wasn't something that I had done before. The Motobilt kit does work pretty good together. Read the directions and kind of take your time cutting. I did know that there was going to be some sort of extensive fabrication, trying to get things to work together and blend together nicely so it doesn't look like a hack job. We did come up with that cup idea to support that A to D pillar on the roll cage, and it ended up coming in nicely. So after that, it was just the bolts on the bottom on the underside, and then there's a bolt that I placed a hole through, a gusset on the B pillar coming into that A to D pillar up top, and that gave us an opportunity to secure everything, and it seemed to work pretty well. Yeah, I prefer to do tube work. Plate work's fine, but body work, when it comes to thin sheet metal stuff, the TIG welding really does pay off. You're putting a lot less heat into things, and there's a lot less to clean up on the backside. Body work's always challenging, and it has to do with the heat, but it's also more forgiving. So it creates an opportunity to expand on your skill set. I wanted to make sure that before the cage came out, we had an opportunity to find exactly where that was going to locate back in. Because otherwise you're just kind of sandwiching in between the front and the rear door. And so to land that piece back on the cage, knowing that that cupped piece can only go where it's supposed to go, really kind of was reassuring in the process, knowing that I was hacking up the bottom using a combination of blades, you know, a sawzall, a cutoff wheel, and whatever else we come up with, because there's that internal structure. But knowing that the top is only going to go where the top needs to go was kind of reassuring in the process. It's not just the body on the outside. There is a steel structure that I'm sure is part of the factory rollover protection system. It's somewhat difficult to get to without totally hacking away at all of the sheet metal that you're going to blend in as part of the body work. So it was challenging, but like I said, a couple of different types of saws, just trying to get it and not kill it at the same time. When I put it back on, it went pretty well. We did have some hesitancy with exactly where it's placed, but I did know that the top portion can only go where it needs to go, the bottom can only go where it needs to go, and then there's a little bit of play in there because we did put spacers on the bottom. We have to account for that things are going to get painted. There's also a sort of a rubber gasket that goes in between the top and the bottom piece of the B-pillar, so you don't want to have those flush when you're making it. In addition to also the roll cage is going to get powder coated, and so I left a spacer in there, just a piece of 16th filler rod, so that things go back together nicely once we have to account for the added thickness of the paint. I think it's a success. I think it looks pretty good. Things blended well together, and the doors go on, the top goes on, everything is functional. I think it came together well. Spacers are in there. Right on there. The B pillars came off and it was time to pull the cage. We knew that we had those solidified, so we just took them off, set them on the tub of the Jeep, and then Angel helped me get a sling so we could get the cage unbolted and taken out, account for all that hardware, bag and tag everything, and then prep the rotisserie so that we could get it supported and it was balanced, so we can move it around and weld as best position as we can.
Like another foot. There we go, stop right there. Those bolts on the B-pillars, are those? Oh, thank you for reminding me of that. These little guys, they would have caused us some issues. Yeah, straight up. Oh, beautiful. Pretty good, dude. Perfect. Straight back.
Especially with TIG welding, anytime you're welding out of position, the quality of your weld and the finished product can be affected by that. When you put something on a rotisserie, you have the opportunity to almost always weld in position, and the quality and product at the end speaks for itself. I'm super blessed here to be in a position where I get to use one. It also makes things go a lot faster because welding on your back and upside down is going to be a lot slower process than welding when you're just in a nice position. So we get it down from where it is, which is kind of sketchy at times, and then you got to assemble it, put it together, get it to length. Once you get the cage on there, it has to be somewhat balanced. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be on there so that turning it upside down can be a one-man show rather than getting a bunch of people there because it's out of whack.
Okay, go. I'm just matching you. Okay, you think it would be good there? I gotta go up a little bit, but... Okay, go up to the next hole. Okay, let's see if we can go up one more hole. And then put your guy in.
Being able to just, put the ear pods in, listen to music and weld, knowing that all of your prep is done, all of your positioning is done. You don't really have to worry about things wandering on you. We had the whole cage braced up so that nothing was wanting to walk as far as heat input, and you want to bounce around a little bit trying to get that stuff done. We did a process where when the cage is inside the Jeep, we do a series of tack welds around every coped joint. That gives a lot more strength, but it also transfers the heat back and forth and makes sure things aren't going to wander. I'll weld as much as I can on the first pass of TIG welding inside the Jeep. When it comes out, I'll put it on the rotisserie and then complete the first pass, and then everything has to get cleaned up for the second pass. What goes on is you'll complete the first pass, and then that haze on the outside, you need to be removed. It's referred to as the heat affected zone. It gets cleaned up because it's essentially oxidation, and it can contaminate the second pass of the weld. And you want that single heat affected zone on the outside. Your settings get changed a little bit, your filler rods get changed a little bit, and you have the opportunity to do a nice pass on the outside. And because your metals already have one pass of welding, you can turn up the heat and really get things to lay down for you in a tighter configuration. And it's something that I'm still perfecting, that I'm blessed to be able to be a part of, and that the boss here wants to see. So it really does give that professional look and quality and feel, especially in a roll cage application, where we have the opportunity to really put a good product out there. As far as the final green light with making sure that it is the way I need it to be, I got to spin it a bunch of times. I needed to see every joint from every angle, ensure that the quality is there, that I didn't miss anything. A lot of times with plate work, you'll get to one side of the plate and then do the other side of the plate, and there'll be a little bit of a gap at the end. If you can turn those corners in the process, that makes things cleaner, but you want to make sure none of that stuff is there. If you do have a pinhole in something from the start and stop of a weld, it gives an opportunity for rust to get in there at some point, for paint not to get in there, and things aren't totally sealed. So you just got to spin it around a bunch of times, make sure that all your joints are good. We know that the cage was going to be back on the Jeep for a number of months, most likely, and fabrication getting completed, and then moving into the powertrain, drivetrain stuff, let the electronics get put in, the plumbing, the wiring, all that stuff. And so I wanted to make sure that I wiped everything down, kind of put a coat of that oil on the outside so that the cage wasn't getting any surface rust and make the powder coat process difficult. So it's just going over it kind of with a fine tooth comb, making sure that we can close the chapter on the roll cage and move into the next step. And that's really what it is. It's the optimal conditions. It's welding in position. It's having the right setup and being familiar with what you're doing. It's always nice to have it turn out the way that you wanted it to turn out. I'm super happy with how the cage turned out. It's definitely not my design, but we're putting a kit together, and the kit is engineered and it's safe and it's a good quality product. Yeah, everything's got to come back off. So the bracing that we had inside the Jeep to make sure that things didn't wander during the welding process, they have to get cut out, and those tubes have to get cleaned up. We also put vent holes in everything. Anytime you're welding on a tube, the heated airspace on the inside can get to a point that it wants to expand and it can blow out your weld. So we put 1/8" vent holes in everything, and then those have to get filled in and cleaned up. Once it comes off the rotisserie, then we put it back on a sling in the forklift and get it back in the Jeep. when it came back in, nothing was off, maybe more than 1/4 of an inch. Kind of used some screwdrivers, some spacers to get things lined back up, and it really went in pretty nice this time. We put the cage back in, we bolted the cage, made sure that that was good. We put the B-pillars back on, made sure that those lined up. We did put the doors back on, put the hard top back on, so we know that everything is the way that we intended it to be. Angel helped me a bunch in the process, and we were able to ensure that everything was the way that it should have been, and we kind of, like I said, closed the page on that chapter. Yeah, then all that stuff comes back off, and we can still move into the next step, which it looks like at this point we're going to focus on the rear. We have that foundation laid with the frame. We have the cage done on the top. Now it's time to start setting suspension and placing axles.
Where's my coffee? Go put this up. Let's go run to Barney's. That's dad fuel, dude. You're not a dad.
No, I got Rockstar
That's
Performance.
dad fuel right there, bro. You're not a dad.
That you know of, Nick. That's getting
We know you're. You know? Are you trying to tell us right now? Like you don't know you're not a dad?
No, I'm not a dad.
You threw that sound like you.
No, it was a joke.